Hi there. Today we're going to talk about how to stop getting angry about little things. How often do you find yourself becoming angry, irritated, or annoyed over the little things that happen every day in your life? I don't know, maybe you enjoy being irritated or annoyed. I don't. I would much prefer to be happy, peaceful, and content. So here's the thing. How difficult is it for us to control all of those little things, those annoyances that happen every day in our life, in order for us to not experience that feeling of anger and to be able instead to experience a feeling of joy and happiness? This YouTube channel, Principle-Based Living, is all about principles. Again, principles are truths, they're laws, natural laws that exist and operate in the world in which we live. We can't break those laws, meaning we can't make them not exist. It's just like gravity. I can't make gravity stop. It works all of the time. Well, there are principles that govern relationships. There are principles that govern our emotions. And there are principles that govern success. The principles that govern our emotions have to do with choice and control. The principle of choice says that in any circumstance or situation, I get to choose my thoughts, my emotions, and my behavior. Do I really get to choose my emotions, or are my emotions determined by the things that happen to me? If you think about it, if we turn our brains on and we really look at that, we can realize that other people, circumstances, situations cannot make us angry. They cannot make us feel any certain emotion. Now, I've talked to lots of people who will say, yeah, but if this happened to you, of course you would be angry. Or anybody in this situation would be angry. Is that true? Think about it. Would anybody and everybody in that situation be angry? Or might you find some people that would not be angry? I know that you can find people that would be angry, and you can also find people that would not be angry. I've observed it over and over and over as I've paid attention and begun to notice that, and to try to notice when that principle of choice and control comes into play, and to realize that, no, I get to choose my emotion. I'm in control of my emotion. Nobody else is. No circumstance can control how I feel. I get to determine that. Once we realize that, that becomes very empowering, because now one of the things that I think most people want in their life is we want control. We believe that if we have control over our life, we can control what happens in the future. We can control our outcomes. The truth is we can't control that, but we can control ourselves. We can control our conscious thoughts, our emotions, and our behaviors. That's it. But so we're talking about anger here and all those little things that cause us to be angry. If I find myself getting angry all of the time, there's a reason for that, because everything we do for a reason. So I've been conditioned throughout my life. I've learned that there's a payoff for getting angry. There's something that I get, some outcome that I get when I become angry. And if it works for me, then I may find a reason to become angry more often. There are people that are angry almost all of the time. And you could look at them and say, why would a person choose to be angry all of the time? Maybe they've learned that that's a way for them to get what they want, or to get what they want most of the time. Maybe they've learned and come to believe that they can control other people through anger. So if I'm angry enough, people will do what I want them to do. I can intimidate people, I can control people. Well, that's a false belief that may work for a period of time, but eventually it will break down and begin to create problems for those individuals in their lives. So if you're an individual that finds yourself becoming angry often throughout the day, and especially angry at at little things, instead of focusing on all of those little things and thinking thoughts like, why do I always have these annoying things that happen to me? This isn't fair. Life shouldn't be this way. And putting forth energy and effort trying to control all of those things, because I'm going to exert a lot of energy, a lot of time trying to control things that I cannot control. And ultimately, it's going to break down and lead to unhappiness and problems in my life. So instead of trying to focus on all of those things that are outside of my control, go back to your beliefs, go back to your thoughts, and look at, okay, this is happening, and I'm feeling angry, but what's happening in between? So there's the trigger or the event, and then there's the emotion here. Well, in between that is thought. And oftentimes those thoughts are down at the subconscious level, so we're not aware of them because we've been conditioned over time. So it seems like this trigger, this event, is creating the emotion, but there's really a thought in there. So slow the process down, go back and examine it, and ask yourself, what are my thoughts when this happens? And what are my beliefs connected to that? And are those thoughts and beliefs based on truth or principle? So based on this thought, then I'm going to look at, first of all, if I have this thought and then I go to the emotion of anger, again, I'm going to look at, well, what is the payoff that I get from being angry? And let's just say it's control. So it's a way to control others. I can now realize that I don't have control over others. I only have influence over others. So I can look at, well, what is anger doing? What is it doing to my health? What is it doing to my relationships with others? Am I finding that people don't want to hang out with me and that people are distancing themselves more and more towards me? Or maybe they're angry, towards me in return. And I can realize that this payoff that I'm getting from the anger isn't worth the cost that I'm experiencing. And so instead of trying to control the other person, I could bring it back to control me. And so I can look at that and say, could I change my thoughts about that event, that person, that situation, so I am no longer feeling angry? And if I can change my thoughts, my emotion will change. If I can't change my thoughts, then I still may be able to change my behavior. Maybe I can get up and leave the situation. Maybe I can go exercise. Maybe I can do some deep breathing. Maybe I can do some imagery, or I can count backwards. There are a lot of different things that I can do to break that pattern, to change that thought process that will change my emotion. And what I know about this is the only way for you, for any of us, to gain control of our emotions is to let go of trying to control everything outside of us. We need to stay focused on the only thing that's really creating that emotion that's not working, which is our thoughts. And we have the ability to do that. It just takes a desire, and it takes effort, and it takes practice. And the more we practice, the better that we will get at doing that. And before you know it, that will become your new autopilot. That will become your new way of responding to situations, because you've reconditioned your behaviors from this to this. This has now moved into your subconscious, and that's the response that happens when you're in this situation. Hope this has been helpful to you today, and that you can go out and let go of some of the anger that you may be experiencing and replace it with peace and happiness and better relationships. Thanks for watching again today. If you like the information that we're providing, subscribe to our channel, and if you ring the bell, it'll give you notifications of new videos as they come up.